So it's a very interesting memory, especially when you have children. So I have a 19-year-old, and it's really crazy to look at her, because she's a young woman now. And I always tell her, I see 19 of you. I see you at 1, I see you at 2, I see you at 3. I see she's like this holographic being, right? So it's almost seeing 20 people, 19 people, all at once. And so sometimes I lapse into how I treated her, at each time. But childhood was, for me, I just remember childhood being so eternal. I just remember I would sit there and say, I'm never going to be an adult. When is this going to happen? Right? There was sort of a timelessness and a hyper-present moment of childhood. And I remember reading Carl Jung's Dreams, Memories, Reflections. I mean, it's such one of the most beautiful books. It was the first time that someone else sort of confirmed that for me. The sort of eternity of childhood. Part of the eternity, too, is the lack of fear, right? Because I think fear, ultimately, all fear has to do with death, right? I mean, this is what we are afraid of in the end, with time. And in many ways, I feel like you mentioned the media and the news. The news cultivates fear. It needs fear to drive home the principle of time, right? Because after all, what we're all afraid of is perishing and no longer existing. So this moment in childhood where there is a sort of there is a timelessness about childhood. And so when I teach students, I'm always asking them, I want you to go back to that child self when you write, where there's no fear, you don't mind stumbling, you're constantly, questioning, and everything is new, and that's part of what slows down time, right? Everything is so new, but as we become older, we get stuck in routine, and before you know it, we're worried about time, and we're stressing about it, etc. The other thing I was thinking a lot about was, I remember, so I studied engineering, and I remember in high school, I had a very hard time with calculus. And part of it was because I love geometry, right? You get to graph a point and, shapes and all that. But when they introduce the concept of time, then now you throw in a third dimension and now that point is moving, holy, I can't handle it. It's too much. So I took calculus 3 times before I understood it, and sort of I could never, for some reason, David, you talked about memorization. I just had a hard time memorizing the formula for speed, right? Distance over time. And the only way I could remember it was to say miles per hour, not D over T for something. I had to keep doing the translation because I couldn't grasp the concept, because it was sort of my way of resisting what time was. And then once I got to college, all the all-nighters and staying up late studying and all this stuff, I wrote. And then I ended up becoming a writer, because I'm like, I need to exist in a timeless space. I can't do this, management consulting or, working with environmental firms. I mean, and then it sort of starts translating into labor, right? When people say, well, how much do you charge for your time editing? I'm like, I don't know. Give me $1 million. I mean, it's a lot. I'm putting a lot of emotional energy into this, right? So that it's just that, how do we negotiate our way through a world that is really regimented by time? And I think, and it's so funny because I don't wear watches. I don't answer emails on time, as Magda will tell you. I just really am struggling with, I just struggled with this all my life. And I went to Switzerland for the first time, last year. And I mean, come on, this is where they make clocks. And I bought a little clock, a little red Swiss clock as a little souvenir for myself, When I get home, I'm all excited, and I set up my little alarm thing. And of course, my Swiss clock did not work. It was broken. No matter how many batteries I put in, it just didn't work. So I kind of made peace with it, and I kept it as a souvenir. And so it's still stopped at the same time, and I'm good with that. So, yeah, that's what it was.